Hello, everyone, and welcome back to On the Curbs IndyCar. I'm your host, Nate Woods, and I am joined once again by my co-host, Thiemo Albers-Daly. Thiemo, how are you doing?
Really doing good, thank you, Nate. And just about recovered from that Grand Prix in Portland because if that for you does not help you like Portland a little bit more, then I don't know what we got to do because were you not entertained?
That definitely was a good race, and it felt like the kind of race that we hoped we could have every weekend.
It very much felt like
It,
IndyCar in the way
it
that I
had
think we
a
said about Detroit earlier on in
yep,
the season. It was like, okay,
yeah,
now we're getting back to what we're used to. And
yeah.
I'm personally just out of the two, I'm so happy it happened at Portland, just so I've got something to use against you for ammunition on that one for next year.
Yeah, it definitely it had everything that we'd want. It had the right amount of bumping and grinding between cars. It had the right mix of pit strategy. It had the right amount of drama. It just if we could have 17 of these in a season, this would be such a massive sport.
I was saying to you before we hit record, while obviously the last 20, 25 laps or so were blockbuster and very reminiscent for me Silverstone in 2022 with how nip and tuck everything was and how you couldn't take your eyes away for fear of missing something. The rest of the Grand Prix wasn't half bad either. And
Yeah,
so often we get commentators, and because partly out of optimism, partly because it's their job to beef up the race if it's not going along as well as we want to, that this is all going to lead to something, it's all going to converge, and then you get to the end of the race and not much has actually then happened
right.
as
Yeah.
promised. This time though, it delivered, and you're saying about pit strategy, we had three at least different strategies, wildly
Yeah,
different
I counted
strategies.
four. I counted four. Yeah.
And I think all of them worked,
Yeah, and that was the thing
which
was they
was the
all
madness of it.
they all kind of converged at the end for the last 20 laps, 30 laps almost.
And it was just pure racing, and it was beautiful to watch. And I
But
think going through the team by team analysis, as we will do, we actually have something to talk about for them. It's not just a case of these drivers were here, this team was here, and they did about as we expected. It's kind of like, no, we have something for everyone, and it's
something for everybody.
nice to have that.
Yeah. Well, and what I really enjoyed was um, going back to the different pitch strategies that were playing out, all of them converging at the end made it to where you didn't know who was going to win the race until
Mm,
that final stint. And you always talk about you're always worried about with a race like this where we were front loaded with several cautions, and pit strategy started to play out in those first what 15 laps, and uh, this could have been a much different race had there been a late race caution or
oh, so
a
different.
mid race caution even. I mean, we were done with cautions by lap what I think we went back to green on lap 21, and that was it. We ran the next
And
89 laps under green.
And the brilliant thing is, we didn't need it to go to caution for it to be interesting. It would have
Yeah,
definitely shaken things up massively in a way that God knows what it would have done, considering how close it was at the end. Um, but the other thing I just loved about it was that you look at the podium places, but then you look at P4 and P5 as well in this race, and P6 even. If you had that bunching up at the end because of a caution or whatever, all six of those drivers would all have been very worthy of getting a win and would have been a brilliant story for their own very unique
yeah,
reasons. And no one would have been unhappy with any of
yeah,
them, I think, because
yeah.
it's like the Nico Hulkenberg podium. Everyone would have
That's
liked
right.
that, and you're not going to
Yeah,
get any complaints. And
yeah. You're
for
talking
that to
top
happen in
six.
IndyCar races is
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah. We're talking top six. That top six includes Alexander Rossi and Callum
Mm.
Ilott.
Well, exactly.
So,
Names that you're like, well, before this weekend, you're going, that's not happening, surely.
and Graham
You
Rahal.
bet. Yeah, I was gonna say that was the thing. There's this meme. I don't know if you've seen. It's this mother holding her child up in a swimming pool, giving it all the attention while this other child's like flailing off to the
Yes.
side.
Yep.
And I just had that from my head in my head the whole time. It's like, yeah, you're gonna have all these drivers getting this attention. There's someone here, there's another one there, there's another one under the water there, or definitely forgotten about. Like they all deserve so much praise
Yeah.
and attention for what's happened here.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's go ahead and jump into team analysis. I mean, we had a lot
yeah,
going on in the race, but I think the team analysis is, as you mentioned, there's something we can talk about with every team, and we can kind of insert race highlights in as we go. But Team Penske, um,
something positive to say at last.
that's right. Yeah. Obviously, Will Power is our fifth winner of the year, um, which seems kind of funny to say. We're only two races from the end. We're 15 races into the season, and we've only had five winners.
I did love that from the commentary team as well. That it's so unusual to get to this point of the season only have four winners. I'm still not quite
Yeah.
used to that in some ways because I've just been in F1 for so long that I'm like, yeah, I'd take it.
Yeah.
uh, but I like that this is a down season for it. So yes, you could say with the pro domination and everything that it's been a little stale for lack of a better word. But the fact that you still get, in my mind, a decent number of different winners is not too shabby. But of all the drivers to win the Team Penske, it was just pure poetry that it was willpower
It was Will
doing
Power.
qualified in third and just made that strategy work. And a strategy that arguably in the hands of other drivers would not have worked because he was on used reds at the end, and Lundgaard and Hullo behind were on fresh reds, and very fast cars, very fast drivers.
Hmm.
In theory, no reason why they shouldn't have been able to
Yeah.
get past him, even with their squabbling amongst themselves. And I think it just reinforces the caliber of driver that Power is. And I just love the fact that whilst it was until points a strong weekend for the other two drivers as well, obviously it didn't work out too well for Newgarden in the end.
Mm.
Um, which yeah, theme for the season. Um, you go, yeah, of course, it had to be Will Power, the guy that is on the chopping block, that is fighting for his seat in the
Yeah.
team, in the sport, is then the driver that has A, been leading the other two handsomely in the championship
Hmm.
standings up to this point, but then is also the driver that wins them their first race and saves them from having their worst season in this millennium,
Right.
never mind the century.
Yeah.
Um, and you just go, it couldn't have been any better than that. I don't know if you saw his post-race interview. I only saw it
Hmm.
this morning, but what a perfect kind of mic drop, but quotable moment as well of essentially saying, what more do I have to do? You look at last year, I won three races. I've just won the race this year. And he goes, you want to know what I'm capable of? Look at last year. Then you'll fucking see.
Yep.
Just drops the microphone and sits back and he goes, think you earned that. To be
Yeah.
honest, that's a fair
Yeah.
enough thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, great win for the team, not just for Will Power, but for the team. I think that
Mm.
Penske's had such a abysmal year. Uh, I think getting a win, finally getting a win this late in the season is is possibly momentum they can carry over into next season. And uh, yeah, I mean, unfortunately for Joseph Newgarden, you mentioned for him, he was uh, uncharacteristically punted by Scott Dixon and
And
spun.
such
And
a little nudge as well. I didn't think it warranted such a big spin, but it just shows how narrow the margins are at times. And
yeah,
it's a shame because he was running in the top five at points up
yeah,
to then. And then you look at the result and go, oh, what happened to Jesus? Okay, right.
yeah.
Back to normal.
Well, and if we had an issue very similar to this last race where, we were hard on IndyCar for not throwing caution flag, and we had Joseph Newgarden stopped in the exit of turn two, not necessarily on the racing line, but close enough to
They've thrown
where,
cautions for less, I feel
yeah,
like, before.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that lack of consistency, I think, is just what
yeah,
frustrates us most. Like, pick a lane, and
yep,
arguably they picked two very different lanes in multiple occasions on
yeah,
in this race weekend, and that was different to what we got last time.
yeah, yeah. And kind of think that. I'm on the fence. I feel like that should have warranted a caution. And I don't know whether, obviously there's officials in that corner, that 1, 2, 3 complex there at Portland. So they would have known, okay, his car's still running. He's just waiting for a spot to turn around in traffic, or he's off the racing line enough to where we don't need to throw the caution. It's a very flat run there. So, you know,
All you need is
drivers
a
would,
couple of drivers duking it out
right.
awkwardly into
It's
turn one or two,
true.
and
Yeah.
he's in the way. So,
Yeah. One thing I will say, Scott McLaughlin finished seventh. There was kind of this throwaway comment during the broadcast. They mentioned they kind of bumped in and said, "Oh, hey, by the way, Shane Van Gisbergen won the NASCAR race at Watkins Glen just now."
which
And
spoilers. Thanks for that. Commentators haven't watched the highlights yet.
yeah. And well, they don't care. It's on NBC now. So, but I think it was Townsend Bell just
Mm.
offhandedly was like, yeah,
He
maybe
said, I was
maybe
thinking about it in the
Scott Mc,
shower this morning and go, that's
maybe
why you keep it in the shower. You don't bring
yeah,
that to TV.
yeah, yeah. Penske might move McLaughlin to NASCAR to try to take on, because if there's one driver that we have here in America now that has the same pedigree as Shane Van Gisbergen, it's Scott McLaughlin.
Mm.
You know,
It,
maybe
yeah,
we're
it's
looking
just,
at this where does Malukas go in Penske's organization backwards, and it's not Power, it's McLaughlin.
I'll admit that while I was trying to think of a solution for power staying, this wasn't one of the avenues I was going down. I was maybe leaving things just as they were for a year instead. But yeah, I wouldn't be happy to see McLaughlin leave just because I think that of the three of them, and yeah, I know New Gun has the Indy 500 wins, but I feel like that's all that's keeping him safe at the moment. Of out of the two of them, I know they both had bad luck and all the rest of it, but I just feel like New Gun's been the worst of the two. So if they should shuffle anyone somewhere, it should be New Gun. I can see the appeal of putting McLaughlin over there because he would fare better than the other two, I think, in a different category. But oh, I hope it was just a throwaway comment, to be honest. It was an interesting thought exercise, but one that I'm happily going to leave
Yeah.
just in the theory bin over here.
Of course, it could work the other way. You have Trackhouse
Well,
Racing in
Malukas.
NASCAR, Trackhouse Racing in NASCAR. They've got a partnership with Rick Ware, which Rick Ware has a partnership in IndyCar. You know, can we bring Shane Van Gisbergen to IndyCar? I mean, this
Again,
is a
you
guy
might
that's
have been
won.
seeing that in some way.
He's won 4 races this season. All 4 of them are on road courses,
Hmm.
and he's not as great at ovals as which shows he's 20. He's won 4 races and still 25th in the points right now in NASCAR. So uh, why not
That's
bring
just
him to a
NASCAR
series
for
that's
you.
why not bring him to a series that's predominantly road courses and see how he can do? So uh, maybe we'll
Yeah,
see him
again,
in.
something for the off season where we try and
Yeah,
combine the two grids and go, right, well, we're going to shuffle this massively and see what kind of batshit grid we can create for
yeah,
both series.
yeah. Maybe somebody like uh, Juncos Hollinger or um, Dale
Well, yeah,
Coyne can
we stick both of
can
those drivers over in NASCAR because they clearly do better in ovals,
yeah,
and we swap Nolan Siegel out
yeah.
for Carl Larson. There we go.
There we go. Yeah, we got next season already worked out. We don't need a silly season. But I digress. So, speaking of Siegel, Arrow McLaren. I mean, this was a topsy-turvy weekend for this team.
That's one way
Uh,
of phrasing it for sure. I think after Andretti Global's interesting season, then we have here the next installment in the IndyCar apology series of the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good
yeah,
very much being Lundgaard. Um, was a little unhappy with him again at the start when he just flew past Pato. Don't know how much of that now was down to pure pace and how much of that was what was going on with Pato's car. But again, I just thought, come on, for God's sake, man,
yeah,
he's already probably not going to win anyway. But at least let the man have a chance for a second and
yeah.
let him just figure it out by himself. Well, I've already annoyed at you from last time. But then, yeah, finished in P2 in the end, and I think he'll be annoyed at that, and was annoyed at that. You saw with his interview afterwards with Georgia, I think. Um, and arguably deserved the win. But I was kind of keeping my fingers crossed that he wouldn't because I wanted power more because of the storyline there. And I just thought he needs it more than you right now, buddy. You're not going anywhere anytime soon, I don't think.
Yeah.
I think Zach Brown can and Tony Kanaan can see the value in keeping you.
Mhm.
Um, and you've still got two more shots at it. Raw Power just needs this right now.
Yeah.
And also, quite amusing that you can see he was visibly trying. And then when Pillow came into the scene, he had to split his attention and figure out what the hell to do about it. So he still beat Pillow, which is ultimately
Mhm.
the aim of IndyCar at the
Yeah.
moment. Um, but that first win with McLaren's coming. I don't think it'll be this season, but I think it's coming for him. He did a very solid job. And Siegel, I'm just not sure what went on there, to be honest. That was just the bad side of it. If you've got anything, please jump in a minute. But O'Ward then on the other side of that inherited pole from Lundgaard, who obviously had
Yeah.
the engine penalty, which again is quite amusing. You got a brand new engine in that car to let him
Right.
get past full power. It's like not happening, bro. It's just I'm winning this one. So it starts from first, then 2 years in a row now we have some kind of incredibly left
Silly,
field car issue,
silly issue. Yeah.
and it essentially takes him out of the race. He's what 10 laps down by the end,
Yep.
finishes 25th, and yeah, any kind of hope of a championship going any further is dead in the water. And
Well, and
I did
I think,
suspect something might be up pre-race because he said we got the car, and I'm like,
yeah,
don't say that.
don't you jinx yourself. Well, and I think it was, I don't want to say it was fitting, but it seems like the way that the season was going, that they were on Pato's in-car camera when the electrical went
Mm,
out during the broadcast. And
yeah,
they're like, oh, something's wrong with the car. And they cut back to it and the engine just is shut off. I'm like, oh, I mean,
that's not lifting and coasting. That's much worse.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, Christian Lundgaard, of course, finished second. That great battle we had. I mean, down there at the end, we talked about it before the broadcast. The last 20 laps of this race, cars getting closer and closer to Will Power, and then you had below that was really putting it to Christian Lundgaard. And Christian did a fantastic job of keeping Pillow behind him. If he could have raced like that throughout the month of July, this could have been a much different
This could have been
championship.
him in the position to try and
Right.
take
Yeah.
one world
I mean,
championship. But
how many bad races did Lundgaard have in a row? I mean, him and Kyle Kirkwood seem to be running the same strategy through the month of July. It's like, let's just give up all the points we can.
it's all part of
So,
the plan. What plan? Good questions. It did remind me very much of the two McLarens chasing down Kimi Antonelli in Canada and Will Power and Antonelli. This case being go and just like you two, just you focus on yourselves. I'm just gonna keep driving, just hope for the best here.
yeah,
Can't do anything else right now. I can just focus on what I'm doing. Hopefully, you two just take care of each other. And luckily, that
yeah,
helps seal things. But oh, it's that awful thing of you've got a win in front of you, and then of all the people to turn up behind you, it's Alex Maloney. Oh, jeez, right. What am I going to do here? But he did a really good job, and he forced Lowe into a couple of rare errors. I mean, we saw a rare error from Pillow in qualifying by going into the wall, first of all, which you don't see
mm,
very often at all. And then these riskier moves that he didn't need to make, but I like that we saw that human raw element from her of like, no, if I want to try and get the win for this championship to make it even better. And I got to get past to do that, and I got to take a couple of risks. I'm running out of time, and I've got
yeah.
double the push to pass. Strategy for that was brilliant to watch
It
unfold,
really
just
was.
trying to figure
Yeah,
out how they're doing everything. Then you bring the back market cars into it, which I love the radio from Will Power as well. There, once he got past Lucas, go, you better defend like Simpson did. You
yep.
know, like you don't have my seat yet, buddy, so you're going to help the team out here.
That's right. If
Um,
you want a chance at this, you better do what I say.
Yeah, and just the way that all played out, and the frustration as well from him. Like once Power got past Simpson, and once he got past Kirkwood and Malukas,
Mhm.
then aside from Malukas, who did try and fight a little bit against the
Yeah,
other two just moved aside, and you just must be so frustrated if you were Power at that point in time, going, really?
Yep.
I've had to fight for like 10 laps to get past you guys, and now you just
Yeah.
move off to the side.
Move
Well,
over the
now you
way.
decide to not get involved.
Well, speaking of moving out of the way, Andretti Global.
I wish they would.
I
Jesus
mean,
Christ.
I put a note here that, the only screen time that any of these drivers got all day was when Will Power was passing one of them. And I mean, it was just, I mean, Herta did eke out a top 10. And he finished 10th, but you got Kirkwood finishing 20th and Ericsson 22nd, both lap down. Uh, like I
I honestly
said,
don't know who the worst one is here. It's all terrible.
yeah.
I mean, qualifying was mixed.
Mhm.
Ericsson with an uncharacteristic top 10, and you thought,
Mhm.
okay, I'd put him in my fantasy team on a one race contract because I just had the budget for someone. I thought, sod it, I'll stick Ericsson in. We'll have a Hail Mary. That obviously didn't work, so I'm glad I just had him for a one race deal. Um, but then Herta, yeah, down to 14th, you'd think, yeah, top 10, but that's where you should be anyway, and comfortably in there. So again, bad. Kirkwood, I'll just repeat what we kept saying the last few episodes, really, about how the hell did we think he was in for a shot for the title this year? And then Ericsson to go from P10 to P22, you just you scratch your head and go, well, that definitely we had so many strategies at play. Whatever that one was, did
Yeah.
not work.
Whatever strategy they were working with was not the right one. Strategy four, not the right one.
Give David Malukas out on loan and stick him in Andretti Global. There's the solve that we need because these three, geez, they need to have something put up the backside to get them to sort themselves out. I think none of them are doing much to earn their keep at the moment. And I was thinking about how to measure drives over a season in all kind of when you've got team car drivers.
Mm.
They already have a team. They've got everyone's arguably got the car. Therefore, in Andretti's case, it's the drivers. And
Yeah.
how long do your careers prop you up for and kind of stave off the you're only as good as your last race
Mhm.
criticism and way of looking at things? And if I'm those three, I'm getting a little bit nervous right now because, yeah, you've got contracts, but I'd be, if I was Andretti, looking and getting the lawyers and going, just have a little look through the fine print.
Yeah.
Just so I got,
Yeah.
so I know I'm working with.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what's left on Ericsson's contract,
It's got a
but
year, I think.
is he still got a year left? But it's like you have Dennis Hauger in Indy next in the Andretti pipeline. You got Lucky Hughes in the Andretti pipeline. It's like if I was a driver, if I was
You can get
Ericsson, I
away
would
with
be the
putting one of
most
them into
worried.
another team.
I mean, they have put so much stock into brought in the broadcast of oh, Will Power is he's on the chopping block, and
Hmm.
is David Malukas going to move up? Like, this is the conversation that I think they should be having is Ericsson is underperformed all season. He's sitting what 20th in the points right now. Uh, he's only 13 points ahead of Nolan Siegel. So, and this is a former F1 driver that should
That's not the
have,
compliment for him that you want it to be.
right. Yeah. Um, and so, you know, obviously, Dennis Hauger is tearing it up in Indy Next right now. His basic super close to locking up the championship. And, you know, not that Andretti Global needs the $1 million scholarship that comes with bringing a Indy Next champion on board, but
They
they've
got to
pretty
do
much,
something different.
yeah, that something has to happen over there, in particular with Ericsson. I think, obviously they are all in on Colton Herta, and
Hmm.
I've hashed out my feelings about him for many years. And Kyle Kirkwood, I think, sitting fifth in the points, I feel like he's pretty well locked in for next season.
He did
Even
his
though
work early on in the season to help
yeah,
justify it, and I think
yeah,
that definitely helps him. But he's probably thinking, I'm quite happy I managed to do it early on because whatever's going wrong at the moment, if I didn't have a couple of those wins in the back pocket, I'd be
mhm,
potentially doing my best Ralph Wiggum impression right now, as Marcus Ericsson is doing.
yeah,
And that's not a place I want to be on the bus.
yeah. Chip Ganassi Racing. Obviously, Alex Palou finishes on the podium in third and wraps up his 2025 championship campaign in IndyCar. And all sorts of statistics and everything being thrown around, you know,
One of the ones
number
I
of
do like
championships. Yeah.
though, because he's not going to get it, is he's not going to eclipse A.J Foyt's record this year of most wins in a single
Most
season
wins in a
because
season.
Will
Yeah.
Power, again of all people, denied him that
Yeah.
privilege.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he's a four-time champion now. I mean, Scott Dixon obviously there, A.J Foyt has mentioned Derek Rokiti, and then somehow I feel like I knew this, but I must have forgotten because of sheer disbelief. And then checking it was the same person that I thought it was, and it was the same person. And then still trying to figure out, coming to terms with the fact that Sebastian Bourdais is a four-time IndyCar champion,
Hmm.
and how just so many questions that I will give to you another time because I then thought, surely not that Sebastian Bourdais. Google. Oh, right. Park that. Go
Yeah.
back over here. I'll deal with that later. And obviously, Andretti,
Mhm.
and now Palou, and that's some pretty interesting company you've got right there. And three on the bounce. I think only three people have done that. I forget the
Mhm.
names now, but that's a rare list as well. And then to finish it with getting on the podium and in a really tight fight for the podium place as well. I liked how we went about achieving this one.
Mhm.
Um, I kind of hope that comments about him only getting started are wrong because I would like to see some mixing up of the order next year,
Yeah.
but definitely sets things up very intriguingly.
Mhm.
Dixon had some interesting stuff going on in his races, as we mentioned earlier
Mhm.
with Newgarden, but the only thing I want to talk about him is the fact that I will forgive him for once for. I was going to say a duff qualifying. I mean, Q9 not bad, but I can't criticize that as much as I might normally because apparently he had an electronics issue in qualifying. So you
Mhm.
know what?
Yeah.
For once, Scott, I will let you off. But I'm sure that's what you've been waiting to hear the whole time. Is my praise and forgiveness for you in qualifying, but you finally got a good excuse for it.
Yeah, they with that incident with Newgarden, obviously he knew that Newgarden was on brand new tires. He came out of the pits right in front of him, and I wish that I would have thought that Dixon had a bit more racecraft and knowledge to know, okay, he's not going to make this turn. He's going to have to be slow because he's on cold tires. And that's why I thought it was uncharacteristic for him. Um,
Maybe it's like we were saying one or two episodes ago. He's at that point in his career. He's just trying stuff
yeah,
just to see
yeah,
what where the just retesting all of the limits and going, okay, no, that didn't work. I thought as much, but
yeah.
good to know. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, another name that they kept tossing around during the broadcast was Tim Horn, who I know,
Mm.
being a relatively new IndyCar fan, this is a name that you are not familiar with.
No, I didn't get around to research this. I was like, they kept saying it. I was like, you can keep saying it. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
know.
yeah. So he was an IndyCar driver in the 50s, and he's
Yeah, definitely not gonna know.
probably if not the greatest driver, definitely in the argument for best driver to never win the Indianapolis 500.
Okay,
He finished, if I remember the stat correctly, he finished in the top five 9 years in a row.
galling.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, he passed away in a race in late 50s, I believe, and a season finale race. And so never got the chance to be on the top step of the podium in Indianapolis, but yeah, they kept bringing his name up as one of these drivers as an all-time great with Palou. So yeah, I mean, I always hate when a season ends early, but I feel like
Mm.
if you do the work, you put in the effort all season, yeah, you can take the last couple races off.
I don't think he's gonna take his foot off the gas either with these two ovals. The one thing I don't mind now about having two ovals to finish off the season is that you can't do them half cock.
Yeah.
You can't trundle around and just go about your day. You've got to go for it. And I think
Yeah.
Although he will want one more win at least before the end of the year just to finish things off on a real high after he didn't get it here. Um, he's had more wins than not this year, and I mean the fact that this third place was his worst result on this type of circuit was just
Mm.
hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think that's going to help with that, and there's plenty still to go with everything else in the championship. With other drivers further down the order, but I think below, yeah, he deserves it, doesn't he? I mean, Christ, you can't fault him that much, really, can you?
A.J Foyt Racing. Oof.
Oh,
Yikes. Name we haven't
moving on.
mentioned yet. Uh, and for good reason. Our last place finisher, Santino Ferrucci. Uh,
That was just. I mean, you saw the impact
mhm.
first on the broadcast, and
Yeah.
you didn't see the cause of it, and you go, someone must have bopped him.
Mm.
Um, and no, it was
No.
just an incredibly rookie error from him,
Yeah.
and just you even. I mean, the theory wasn't half bad either in terms of trying to recover what was
Mhm. Right.
essentially the car getting away from him. But then, yeah, you'd think that was the first time it had ever like happened to him. And it was
Yeah.
like this is rookie season almost. It was just such a massive fumble on that side of things. And everyone, I mean, Ferrucci's a decisive character. We know that on and off track. But I think the majority of people, after seeing that kind of an error, just went, oh, anyway, back to the race.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We can't even feel that sorry for you because it was just such an uncharacteristically silly thing to do.
Mhm. And yeah, just lit it. He got on the gas too early coming out of turn 12 onto the front stretch and just looped it around. What I thought was really ironic was, um, you know, on the first lap, we got through turns one, two, and three
Yeah.
completely clean. And one of the commentators mentioned
Mm,
that
mm.
there's an 87% chance of a caution in the first three laps of this race in Portland.
And
And
you'd
we
think it
made
would
it,
happen in the first few corners, because
we
that's where
made it through
everything would normally happen.
that first one, two, three complex, and we're like, oh, okay, we're gonna make it. And then on lap three, Santino Ferrucci.
And it wasn't
That's
even because of anything happening. It was just him taking himself out
Yeah,
of it as well
that's
to
right.
kind of even
Yeah,
just to compound that statistic even more there.
yeah.
Um, my question for you, though, Nick, is what the heck happened to David Malukas? I mean, brilliant qualifying,
Mhm.
P4, and then again, a little bit like Marcus Ericsson, Carl Cook, whatever strategy that was, it wasn't the right one, and
Mhm.
you had plenty of right ones to choose from.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was just. I think this was another case of where the strategy was off. They picked the wrong strategy for the day, and he ended up his only role in the race was there at the end, helping out Power. That was it.
Which,
So,
again, of all the races for that to happen, was also fitting that it was this one, I think, just for the sake of, yeah, the guy that you want to replace
mm,
is fighting against two drivers in superior
mm,
machinery with superior tools available to them,
yeah,
and you're all the way back down in 19th,
mm,
trying not to get lapped.
yeah,
And I know that's not the story of the whole season, but in this flashpoint that might be the tipping point
mm,
for Willpower's future, it just seemed perfectly placed from a narrative perspective. You're writing the script for that. You're going, I've done a good job here. This is
yeah.
going to be good. They're going to like
This is good. This is good. Yeah, yeah. One thing I will say is, uh, one of these two drivers, and I'm not going to
this.
say which one, but it could be either one. But I think one of these two drivers is going to get a podium in one of the last two races of the season.
Ooh,
I think they have shown that ovals are where they're excelling. Now, every once in a while, we get a flash of brilliance from one of them on a street or road course. Fourth starting position for David Lucas, obviously this weekend, but they're both strong oval drivers. I think this could be one of these drivers is going to get a podium in the final two
like a
races.
bold prediction, so we have to wait and
Yep,
see on that
there
one.
it is.
Um, I I know why you're not choosing which one because it could honestly be a coin toss
It
with
could be
how
exactly.
ovals
Yep.
go and these two drivers. I mean, they're either up there or they're not. So
Yeah. checkers or wreckers.
NASCAR, baby.
Juncos Hollinger Racing, obviously, Connor Daly, um,
We'll get into
not
that.
yeah, not the best day for him either. We'll come back, yes. But Stingray Rob, 14th place finish for him. Um,
Good by his standards. I think
yeah,
it's
exactly. I mean,
nice to have something not negative to say.
yeah, and I think it's. I think along with like willpower winning the race, I think this is a finish that for him he can carry momentum with this.
Yeah, hopefully. Anyway, I've been saying obviously I mistakenly thought that ovals was where he was primarily good at. Then we got to the ovals, and I was then left scratching my head and going, "Well, why the heck is he here? He's got a cool name and a fun backstory, but that's not quite enough."
Yeah,
Um, and so to get these little results, a little bit like the rookies in some way, to have like you don't need to be top 10, you don't need to be on the podium, but you just need to be showing a bit of progress. And of 6 spots, finished ahead of Kirkwood, finished ahead of Ericsson, finished ahead of Ugarden,
yeah,
finished ahead of Siegel, I think. These are great. And I'm not quite in the on fair game, but finished ahead of Patrick Award. You take
yeah.
these where you can get them.
That's right.
Um, Connor Daly though. Ooh, I mean, there was so much to go. We might as
That
well
was
tackle all of it here, I think. But
yeah, that was a hard
there
hit.
was I mean, the what great safety on the car and the barrier
Yeah,
because I would have thought for sure the speed he was coming in at that it was going to be a lot bigger than what
yeah,
it was, and the fact that he just essentially went blank.
yep.
I
Came right
thought,
back
oh,
down.
that was kind of impressive, but it
Mm,
wasn't any worse. I thought initially the hard racing between himself and Rasmussen coming out of what was it, turn seven. I
mm,
didn't mind it as much because I was thinking back to previous races across the season and we go back to the stewards and what they allow people to get away
mm.
with here. I thought that's maybe just over the line, but might just get away with it. But it's kind of thing you can only get away with once. Then obviously Connor was quite frustrated and did a less than subtle move on back
Yeah,
on Rasmussen. But I think because the justification I think for not giving Rasmussen penalty for the third incident was that we're going to let them sort it out between themselves, sort of thing. And I understand that from one perspective, but I also think you're the governing body, and that could have been. I mean, it was already bad, and it's kind of like, well, if that's acceptable, then what is unacceptable in terms of the consequences for it, especially if Rasmussen was more at fault there for that incident at the end than Daly was. And I like hard and fair racing as much as the next person. I mean, Christ, we got to deal with Max Verstappen every 5 minutes, and he's dive-bombing people up the inside into uh, like turn four in Hungary for P12. I'm
mm,
used to it, but I think this is a bit too much in the other direction. I think, and I
yeah,
don't mind an aggressive driver, but you've got to know where the limits are, and shunting off um, one of your competitors at 180 miles an hour odd into his tire barriers is
yeah,
probably where you should draw a bit of a line.
yeah. And that was my other bugaboo with IndyCar officiating this weekend after Joseph Newgarden stopped on track. But yeah, Christian Rasmussen definitely should have had a penalty. I mean, if Scott Dixon gets a penalty for
A little
chrome
nudge.
horning Newgarden on cold tires, who came out right in front of Scott Dixon out of the pits, if we're going to give a drive-through penalty for that, that should be the very least that we do to Rasmussen for
Mm.
what the racing that he was doing. I mean, they even talked about it in the broadcast. I put it in the show notes even.
I
Let's
thought
scroll
there's
back up here.
some great team radio and some great commentary. The team radio, I think, from Rasmussen was he clearly just ran out of talent there, and I thought that is a ballsy thing to say when you're the one at fault there.
Yeah. So
And
from
then
lap,
the commentary just come on straight away and go,
yeah,
I think he was expecting you to leave a bit of racing room, like a racing driver.
right. Yeah. From lap 32 through lap 36, the conversation from the commentators was specifically revolving around Christian Rasmussen and not receiving a penalty. or should he have
Hmm.
received a penalty?
Some great back and
And
forth there.
yeah, and both or all three of the commentators in the booth had valid points, but I think it definitely should have been a penalty for Rasmussen there. I mean,
I
it was
think
uncalled for.
the consequence for Rasmussen never really came in the way that, for me at least, throwing it over to the world of NASCAR for a second, it did over there at the weekend. I don't know if you saw any of the Xfinity race at all, um, but Connor Zilic at one point, I forget who the teammate is there, it might be SVG, um, ran him off one of the corners at Watkins Glen, and not just off on the corner, he out of the race crashed, terminal,
Hmm.
done. And I thought, your teammates, that's rough at the best of times, but that's incredibly rough, especially when you're meant to be like not necessarily best friends working together, but
Hmm.
you don't crash with your teammates. One of the unwritten rules because of how bloody obvious it is.
Yeah,
Then he went on and won the Xfinity race, and I just thought, oh, that's rubbing salt in a wound a little bit. But then you got a little bit of universal karma when Listen climbs up onto the top of the car, gets his foot caught in the safety netting of all things
yeah,
on the car, falls off and breaks his collarbone.
yeah,
And well, unfortunate, nothing too serious at least. But I just thought, well, that's what you get for not for taking out your teammate in a race. And I just
yeah,
thought Rasmussen could have done with a little bit of the maybe someone splashes a puddle over him somewhere when he's walking out the track or something.
yeah.
Something just to balance out a little bit. Um,
But yeah,
yeah, don't do
Daly,
that.
yeah,
Consequences.
yeah. I think Daly, he's another driver that um, the next two tracks that we go to, Milwaukee and Nashville, I think are going to hold a lot of possibilities for,
He did
much
well
like
last year,
Lucas and
didn't he? There,
Ferrucci. Yeah, he did. Is that where he got his podium last year? Was Milwaukee?
possibly, yeah.
I think it
Gonna
was
say, I'm pretty
Milwaukee
sure he
last
got on
year.
podium, didn't he?
Yeah. And so, that's another driver to watch out for. Definitely didn't have a great weekend this outing, but then the next race, I think we'll see him return to form, hopefully. Meyer Shank Racing. This feels like exactly what we've come to expect from this team all season long with Armstrong and Rosenquist.
Realize as well that I've been criticizing Rosenquist for qualifying so often this season, and now I'm going to criticize him for his race performance because he qualified too high in the other direction.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, Brilliant qualifying. Started from second. I should have known really he was never going to stay there. So ninth
Mhm.
is a bit annoying after that, especially as Armstrong starts eighth and finishes in eighth. Um, but like I say, it's kind of what we've come to expect from them. That is actually a quietly good result team. So I'm not going to criticize Felix too much actually. Um, just did a really solid job and shows that again. I wish we had a constructor championship in IndyCar for many reasons, but I think they'd be way up there, much higher than we'd have thought at the start of the season. Definitely ahead of some other people. And I think both of their positions in the championship standings at least reflects that.
Mhm.
And still reflects that. I mean, obviously, Rosenquist was until recently just about mathematically still in contention for the titles.
Yeah.
We never thought it was going to go that far, but the fact that you can say that sentence
Mhm.
over many of the drivers that you'd expect to definitely be in the fight says a lot, I think. And I like that it's, as you say, we've come to expect this from them.
Mhm. Yeah. And I mean, they're only 6 points apart in the standings right now in seventh and ninth place.
It's not
And
bad.
that's basically where they're finishing every single race. And Armstrong has 10 top 10 finishes on the year in 15 races, and Felix Rosenquist has nine. I mean, this is where we are
Mm,
used to seeing Armstrong finished eighth this weekend and Rosenquist ninth. I mean,
mm,
that's
bang
this
on.
is exactly what we expect from them, I feel like. Um, you know, Consistency can a lot of times win you championships. But
Mm,
unfortunately, this is a season where we've got one driver that has been consistent to a much higher level than everybody else.
yeah.
And, um, it just, you look at Alex Blow, I mean, he had 12 top fives this season out of 15 races. I mean, I know that eight wins is a lot, and he had a podium this weekend, but 12 top five finishes. And
Yeah,
so
it's going off that argument of you've got to wait for them to make a mistake, but when they're not making mistakes, that's
yeah,
tricky.
well, and, we well, we're coming up on Alexander Rossi, who finished fifth. But when you look through the finishes that drivers have had, everybody in the top 18 in points and 19 of the top 20 drivers in points have had top five finishes this season. I mean, that is, I think, a stat line that deserves to be looked at and making a case for this is a premier series. Yes, we've
Yeah,
got,
I think it's that's why it's easy to overlook with Palou being Palou at the moment. Is that you go, oh well, it must be boring to watch. No,
it
it's there is still
really isn't.
so much going on.
Yeah.
It's not F1 23. There is actually
Mhm.
stuff going on in the background that is really
Right.
exciting, really interesting to see. And this is a perfect example of that for the entire race for everyone on the grid. It feels like because again, you've got drivers in top teams where they definitely shouldn't be. You've got drivers in mid and low field teams where they definitely shouldn't be.
Right.
And that's what makes it so good. You've got this convergence. We talked about the strategy earlier, 4 or 5 different strategies, and 4 out of the 5 of them worked. And that's at least 2 more than should. Um,
Right.
and brilliant segue for Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing as well, again,
Yeah.
because you've got a driver there that you're not quite sure where to ever put him in rankings for stuff, but you give him an opportunity in Hail Mary, and he made it work. And again, a little bit like Meyer Shank, you like that the teams take those risks and those gambles because you just need to figure out what works so you can replicate it. And I think Meyer Shank are at the point now where Rail and Lanigan want to be, and
Mhm.
you can see how that then works to get to the next rung of okay, right now we need to start looking at. I was going to say Penske, maybe Chip Ganassi and
Yeah.
McLaren
Yeah.
more. That's right. That's how we emulate. We need to emulate them to get the next point. And
Mhm.
Rahor's now looking at Meyer Shank and going, okay, that's the next rung for us on the ladder.
Mhm. Yeah. With Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, Rahal Graham just that was the right strategy. Probably didn't have the car to win the race, but this is a guy that went out and qualified 22nd.
So when you're
And
starting
then
down there, you're
and
not expecting him
yeah,
to win the race anyway.
right. And finishes in fourth place. And it wasn't like he got to the front and then his strategy didn't play out and he got passed by a bunch of cars and finished outside the top 10. This was he was able to stay in that front pack. I mean, not necessarily the front pack. I mean, he did finish 10,
Second
10 and a
front
half
pack.
seconds behind Will Power, but he was the leader of the second pack in fourth place. So
There was a brilliant bit of commentary from Will Buxton just before they threw to an outbreak, I think. And he went, my eyes deceive me, or is Graham Rahal legitimately in fourth place? And they
yes.
were just kind of like, oh, no, don't think so. And then he went, yeah, but if he hits at the same time as everyone else, then surely he is. No, I was like,
Yep.
oh,
Oh,
yeah.
he
Oh,
sure is. Yeah.
like, damn. Like, that's a brilliant thing that they've managed to
Yeah.
pull off
I
there. And you go,
mean,
fair play.
Graham led 10 laps in the race. So,
Yeah, I thought we're back on like what was it, the Sunset Grand Prix earlier this year? Like, oh, it's Graham Ray going to be the man. So out of nowhere, and
yep.
suddenly steal the limelight. Um, yeah, less. I mean, Foster, I'm not too disappointed with because again, a little bit like Meyer Shank, it's what we expected. It wasn't bad. He made up 3 spots from where he started, and is going on quite nicely. Di Francesco, yeah, I don't know what his contract situation is, but yeah, he got another bird greeting from McLaughlin over
Yeah.
the weekend. McLaughlin gave that to Ferrucci as well, I think, at some point.
Mhm.
Um, it was a brilliant bit. I don't know if you got to see on the grid walk that Harvey did. You were saying you've been giving out the birds a couple of times already this weekend. You plan doing it during the race. You went, I hope not to have to, but I've started alongside my best friend Dev, so you never know.
Yeah.
I was like, oh God, you are as well. Start alongside him
Yeah.
to the penalties. Oh, that's not going to go well, is it?
Um, Ed Carpenter Racing. We mentioned Alexander Rossi here just a few minutes ago, and finishing fifth and great top five finish for him. I think this is another team where he started sixth. I mean, he had a great starting position,
Great
so he
weekend.
was up towards the front on merit. But I think pit strategy helped him remain where he was. I don't think he necessarily had a top five car,
They made
but
so much noise over the entire weekend through the practice highlights and qualifying about how Rossi hadn't yet had a top five finish this year and how it would be
mm,
his worst season to date if he didn't get one by
yeah,
the end of the year. And a little bit like Power, I feel like I took that very personally. So I went and had an absolutely monster weekend and got that first top five finish. And
yeah,
yeah, it's another story because of the podium and hello and all the rest of it. You're like, this isn't going to get the attention it deserves, and you're frustrated with the drive for that. Because you're like, this thing that you've just been criticizing him for all year long, he's finally done it.
yep. Yeah, and Christian Rasmussen finishing
Mm.
12th, and
Top
we've
five
already
spots,
hashed out.
great race for him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. When you push cars out of the way, that's run the risk of taking yourself out. But
Encouraged out of yeah,
yeah,
no, not just completely out of the way.
yeah. And I put random drug test for Rasmussen in the notes. Oh yeah, gosh, I mean, who's
Just to be sure.
just to be sure. Dale Coyne Racing. Renus VK finishing 17th and Jacob Abel finishing 23rd. Um, this is kind of a so-so
Probably the
weekend.
one team there
But
isn't as much to say about as we would have liked, but
yeah,
still improvements overall from where they started. So
yeah,
it's
I think
all right.
VK was a guy that was on that alt. He was on one of the alternate strategies, and I think it was
It
one of
was
those
one
strategies
alternate too far.
that didn't work, and did finish better than he started. Both him and Abel did. So, moving on to the next race for them, and moving on to the next team. PREMA. I mean, this was about as good as a weekend as I think they've had all season, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Ilott again smashing his best result of the season. I think he was eighth up to now, and he went
Mm,
and made it difficult for himself to beat this one. That's a certain.
yeah,
Especially after starting 24th and then
yeah,
finishing P6. That's great. And again, you feel a little bit for Robert Schwarzen here because starts 25th, finishes 15th, ordinarily be going well. Damn, excellent job for you in that car in the season you're having. And then
yeah.
you've got bloody Callum Ilott next to you going, oh my dear, and you're new bugger. But yeah, really nice to see for them and that they are able to eke out some good results from this cursed season,
Mhm.
this cursed
Yeah.
season for them.
Well, I think with Primet, it was one of those things where I think too many people had really high hopes for this team coming into the season because they're like, oh, it's Prema, the huge name in European motorsport. And I'm like, well, IndyCar isn't a European discipline.
Hate to
Uh,
point out the obvious, but
yeah, but just because it's an open wheel doesn't mean that it's the same open wheel as what you guys run in your ladder
mm,
in Europe. So I think they're going to figure it out, and this race shows it that they're at least figuring out the strategy side of things. I think they probably still have a year or two left to figure out the
again, they're in that
mechanical side.
advantage of they can't do much worse, so why not try a random left field strategy? Because what's
Right.
the worst that's going to happen? You're going to finish where you started, which is what you might have done
Mhm.
anyway.
They're
So
still gaining race
try
data
it.
to build on.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean,
You're
it's
doing the Scott Dixon approach this season of I'm just going to try shit.
right. Well, it's like look at Alex or at Pato Award.
Mm.
That electrical issue would have taken you know any number of drivers out, and they would the team would have just said, yeah, that's it, we're done. But that team got to work and got him back on track, albeit many, many laps down. But he went out and
You've got
completed
to
the
collect the
race.
information. You've got to see what you can
And
get.
right, that's information that they can use for next year. So, um, yeah, but for Prima, I think that this season has been a struggle, but um, obviously you have Schwartzman that took a pole in Indianapolis, which is a nice highlight for them in the first half of the season. But now we're starting to see maybe what
Seeing
this
solid
team,
results consistently from them. and
yeah,
they're not.
maybe what we can is see something where, next season, this is maybe not a backmarker team anymore. This is a, a mid-pack team.
I'd like to think that next year, from the trajectory that all of these teams I think are on, we won't have an obvious backmarker team.
Mhm.
It'll just be an incredibly tight midfield with a couple of teams out front that are more obvious but are
Mhm.
catchable. And it's more the
Yeah.
drivers than the teams themselves.
Hot, not, and hard luck for the weekend. Who was your hot driver?
Willpower.
Yeah.
It worked so well. This whole narrative for him this weekend qualifies third, wins, keeps off Christian Lundgaard, keeps off Alex Palou, gets to stick the proverbial finger up at his teammates. Is he the guy that's going to replace him, and also keep everyone happy at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed not to be happy with that.
And it was a popular win, I think, in the paddock, I feel like.
Oh yes, very much so.
Yeah. For me, I'm going with Christian Lundgaard. You know, yeah, he finished second, but boy, that fight that he had with Alex Palou in those final laps. I
So
mean,
good.
you're Alex Palou didn't need to race him. He had the championship locked
Mm.
up. And even if he didn't have the championship locked up, he's still on the podium. He didn't need to
You still
fight
didn't
for a
need to
second
race him.
place. He didn't need to race him, but he did. And Christian Lundgaard showed that, hey, what you saw from me in the first half of the season is what you should expect from me.
He had
And
Thermal Club in the back of his mind, like, I am going to play the reverse Uno card on you, my boy. I'm going to make
yeah.
this difficult for you.
But for me, the not hot driver of the weekend, definitely Christian Rasmussen. I mean, that the drive that he had the first 30 laps of the race is almost amateur. I mean, not just we talked a lot about him and Daly, and their struggle for what, a lap and a half, 2 laps. But when I go back through the show notes and I go back through the extended highlights this morning, uh, his name appears like every other lap, and he's dive bombing somebody into turn
It's
one.
not for good reasons.
It's not for good reasons, and you know, I think it's for the commentators to spend 4 and 5 laps discussing him and his driving. You know, that's not how you want to be on a broadcast.
Ew, that's the wrong kind of highlight reel you want to be
Right.
on.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but at least the silver lining is he'd make it onto a highlight reel for this weekend because Carl Kirkwood wouldn't.
Yeah.
That's why I chose him for my not
Yeah.
hardest. But again, like he's glad he's got those wins wrapped up because otherwise you have that end of season montage. You'd be going, where the
mhm.
heck was he?
Yeah.
It's almost like a completely different driver from the start of the year, and I don't know what on earth happened there. But yeah, not what I wanted
Mhm.
for him. But here's hoping some tough love sorts him out. I'm intrigued that we've both chosen the same person for hard luck award because not the definition of hard luck, but just because Connor Daly was also available, I thought one of us might choose him.
Yeah.
So I think we've got to at least give him a shout out because that is hard luck in a
Yeah.
literal sense.
Yeah. But yeah, we both went with Pato Award for our hard luck. And
Which would you prefer? Would you prefer to lose a championship because of some wiring or because of a seatbelt?
I would definitely want to lose it for the wiring because
It's
that
kind of like
is,
having choose between getting kicked in the face or in the nuts, but you
yeah.
don't really want either of them to happen, but it's maybe a lesser evil.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, it just, they mentioned it was electrical, and they were when he was in the pits. I think it was Jack Harvey was reporting that they're replacing the CPU unit in the car, but then they were talking about, oh, it's actually a frayed wire, a wire just rubbing against something that shorted out, and it's like, oh, can you
So the
imagine?
statistical odds of that,
Yeah,
it's like the
right.
seatbelt. Like someone work out the odds on that one, and then just don't tell us because it will just depress us even more.
Yeah, yeah. So I guarantee you they're going to be pulling that car completely apart this week and
It's going to be
making
Pato with a
sure
sledgehammer going, "Why did you do this? This race?"
they're going to run their hands over every lineal inch of wiring in that car to make sure that there is nothing else frayed in that vehicle. So, But yeah, so a few pieces of news to discuss in IndyCar. One, we already mentioned Dennis Hauger uh, racked up another win this weekend in Portland in the Indy Next Series.
Very
And
impressive style.
yes, and um, yeah, it'd be interesting to see. He's 54 points ahead of Cal Colette in the points, which with two races left, not mathematically out of it yet. I think this is kind of where we were going into this weekend with Award. It's like, oh, he's not mathematically out of it yet, but he's got a long way to go.
Yeah, yeah.
So, um, so great for him. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him next season, whether it's a position at uh,
Well,
Andretti
interestingly,
in
I heard over
design.
the race commentary that he had the option to join an IndyCar team this year, but chose instead to go into Indy
Oh,
Next and learn the tracks and
mm,
make sure that he was up to speed with everything and that he had what it takes. Because while he did win races in Formula Two, he had a massive drop off from where he was in Formula Three and was really
mm,
struggling at points, it looked like. So I wonder how much of that was just getting his mojo back and making sure that he knew what he was doing. And
mm.
it's bloody works.
Yeah,
And I think it's such a sensible and unexpectedly sort of mature thing to do from a racing driver because you'd go, well, you've been given the option to go into IndyCar. Why would you not take it? But well, I don't want to just do that and be
mm,
burnt out in a season. I'll be intrigued to know who offered him a seat and what the
mm,
contract looked like. But now he's in a position where he can bargain a bit,
yeah,
which is great for him. And I think he got his mojo back.
yeah. I'm not saying that he's ready to move now, but obviously being in the Andretti pipeline, that
Mm.
will include F1 next season.
Well, yes, I'm not quite sure about that either, but
Yeah.
that is some fun stuff to debate as well at some point.
Maybe not next season, but he's only 22 years old. Maybe he can
But
uh the next maybe 3, 4 years we can see him. Maybe he's the heir apparent to Colton Herta, the Messiah. Yeah.
Jesus 2.0.
Yeah. Um, one piece of news that we have that we have not mentioned because it happened shortly after our last episode was Fox Broadcasting has purchased 1/3 of IndyCar Entertainment or Penske Entertainment
Yeah,
and is now 1/3 owner of the IndyCar series, the IndyCar Racing Network, and the Indianapolis 500.
which
We
from a
would.
broadcasting point of view and a media point of view generally, with what they've started doing this year and the trajectory they appear to be on, I'm on board with that. Everything else, more of a grey area that I'm not 100% sure on anything about, including how I feel about it. But I'm intrigued. It's the I'm going to be on the fence. Is basically what I'm saying. I don't mind getting a splinter or two while I'm here, while I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's pretty unprecedented that what Fox has done. Being a broadcasting network that has bought uh, minority rights, not only in a racing series, but just a sport in general. But then on top of that, the largest sporting event in the world with the Indy 500. And so uh, there's just so many different caveats to try to wrap your mind around with what is their reasoning behind this. I mean, you already made such a huge splash getting the broadcasting rights from NBC, and you had a great list of promos coming into the season. And I think as fans, we already were like, okay, Fox is doing it right. Good job, guys. We're on board with what you're doing. Keep up the good work. They did not have to persuade us anymore that they were all in on IndyCar. They didn't have to go out and buy 1/3 of the series to convince us that, oh yeah, Fox is on board with promoting this sport. But now there's a financial benefit for them to promote the sport.
Yeah,
above, just getting eyes on a TV to look at advertising during commercial
I'm,
breaks. So,
I think this is definitely something that we could do an episode on in the off season to have a
mhm.
look deep into what this could mean on all the levels. But yeah, like you say, they didn't need to do it, but the fact they did it anyway speaks volumes. We just aren't sure what it's saying yet because it's so loud. It
Yeah,
says, "Yeah, we know you're definitely all in," but it's what that looks like now is where we're
yes,
definitely getting intrigued.
yeah. So, yeah, that would make an interesting off-season deep dive episode, I feel like. So,
Get our monocles out and have a proper look at things.
that's right. So, well, that wraps it up for this week, I think. And we've got another race coming up August 24th. So, we just less than 2 weeks away. We're going to be in Milwaukee. I know we're leaving one of your favorite tracks on the circuit, and we're going to one of my favorite tracks on the
A
circuit.
great time to be
So,
us, isn't
that's right. Now, I'm still a little chapped that we didn't get a doubleheader in Milwaukee this season, but
it?
uh,
Right to fight.
with Iowa on the chopping block, I feel like next season we might get that doubleheader again. So, but we'll be back after the Milwaukee race for you guys to discuss that race. Even though the championship's wrapped up, I feel like we're still going to have plenty to talk about going into the end of the season. So, we'll be back with you guys soon.